AMD updates on Ryzen 9000 gaming performance, revised testing, Parity with Intel's 14th Gen CPUs, optimized branch prediction, update to boost games. Following the kind of lackluster gaming performance that several reviewers including us saw in our test results, AMD has published a new blog to clear the air with its community. This all comes down to the disparities between AMD's official gaming performance numbers and the ones that we saw in actual review. So going back to the official figures, AMD claimed that the Ryzen 9000 Zen 5 CPUs had a 9% average performance uplift at 1080p versus the Ryzen Zen 4 CPUs and a 6% average performance uplift at 1080p versus the competition Intel 14th Gen. The tests were averaged from 30 plus games. The company confirmed that most of the games were tested using the in-game tool for benchmarking purposes, which isn't always the best representation of game performance. It might be suitable for a specific scene, but in areas where more action or gameplay is involved, that may be a different story as more processing is required on the CPU and GPU side. AMD discloses the internal testing hierarchy it used for its Ryzen 9000 Zen 5 CPUs. Both Intel and AMD chips were tested with DDR5 6000 while Intel's chips were set to the default profile, and that's okay considering that Intel itself recommended the use of default profiles before the release of its 0x129 BIOS patch, which addresses stability issues. The BIOS patch launched on the 15th of August, which is the same day AMD launched its Ryzen 9 9950X and Ryzen 9 9900 CPUs, so they had only the initial reference performance to showcase for the competition. In the latest performance testing, AMD says that it has used DDR5 7200 memory for Intel's 14th Gen CPUs and also enables the maximum power profile extreme performance mode, which when put up against the Ryzen 9000 Zen 5 CPUs showing performance parity. AMD also states that it had turned on VBS virtualization based security, which is set to enable by the default in Windows, but that can impact performance too. The result of all of this is that AMD Ryzen 9000 CPUs deliver a 10% performance bump in the creative and productivity workload, as 25% improvement in AI workloads and 5 to 8% bumps in gaming application versus Ryzen 9000 versus Intel 14th Gen chips. The Ryzen 9000 CPUs deliver a double-digit lead in productivity and creativity application, so no specific figure mentioned. A 30% lead in AI workloads and parity in gaming across the most popular games tested by reviewers. Following is the full update from AMD. The AMD game test suite includes a broad set of eSports AAA and popular older games, which are a combination of CPU and GPU bound titles. Game performance conclusion can be influenced significantly by the makeup of the test suite. AMD tested Intel configuration using comparable DDR5 6000 memory as well as Intel default setting baseline power profile, which can have a small impact on gaming performance. AMD also tested Windows Virtualized Base Security VBS enabled. This is the default Windows behavior and Microsoft recommends activating VBS to improve security. However, it can affect gaming performance. The Zen 5 architecture incorporates a wider branch prediction capacity than prior Zen generation. Our automated testing methodology was run in admin mode, which produced results that reflect branch prediction code optimizations not presented in the version of Windows reviewers used to test the Ryzen 9000. We have a further update on accessing this performance for users below, and as we can see here, Ryzen 9 9950X, but Windows version is 24H2, and Ryzen 9 9950X, but in Windows 23H2, and we can see the performance delta tab here, and indeed the update fixed the issue. Whereas in Far Cry 6 in the new update we can see 183 FPS, in the old one is 162 plus 13% performance boost. Cyberpunk 200 in 23H2 it's 188 plus 7% boost, and in Hitman it's 358 instead of 347 plus 3% boost. And some game like Watch Dogs Legion 165 there was no change, and in also Cinebench 2024 single thread there was also no change. So yes, there was some increase and boost in the FPS. AMD states that the branch prediction updates only works as intended when running Windows 11 in admin mode, but that option isn't used by the majority of gamers who run Windows in standard mode, so the update will enable the working of the new code within the standard Windows 11 OS mode too. AMD is also working on new chipset driver to address the core parking concerns. The new performance update will not just improve Ryzen 9000 Zen 5 CPUs but will also apply to Ryzen 7000 Zen 4 and Ryzen 5000 Zen 3 desktop CPUs. Some reviewers also reported that fresh installation of Windows led to higher performance, but that is just one thing to expect from a clean Windows. A fresh Windows installation can not only yield better performance with AMD CPUs but will also improve the performance of Intel CPUs as there is less overhead from various apps and installations. Overall, it's good to see this update from AMD that they are working to make not only their internal testing better, which should lead to more actual and representative performance figures in the future, but also working to tune their newly launched chips so that they perform to their fullest potential.